Welcome to the Valley Politics History Interviews. I'm Terry Christensen. Margie Matthews served on the San Jose City Council from 1992 to 2000 with Mayor Susan Hammer and a female council majority. She returned to the council in 2015 when she was appointed to fill a temporary vacancy, which gives her a unique perspective on how the workings of the council have changed over time. As a council member, she was a leader on major issues, including limiting hillside development, establishing the city's GREENLINE, gun control, and the Children's Health Initiative. Between her stints on the City Council, she held major administrative positions with the City of Los Angeles and Santa Clara County. Now, she's a great-grandmother and a pretty good painter. Here's our 2019 interview with Margie. So, Margie Matthews, welcome to Valley Politics.
Thank you.
You served on the City Council in the 1990s, representing District 4, that's Berryessa, North San Jose, and El Viso. And then you served again in 2015 by appointment when there was a vacancy, they were waiting for a special election. So two pretty different eras on the council, and we'll want to talk about the differences as we go along here. But let's start with the 1990s. What was it like serving then? We had a woman mayor, Susan Hammer, female majority on the council. What was it like on the council in that era for you?
Well, it was wonderful. Looking back, it was wonderful, and we knew it even then.
You really?
That it was great, oh yeah. I was elected in what was then called the Year of the Woman. And so there was so much national support for women. It was in the middle of the women's movement of that time. And not only that, but there was so much local support for women. There were role models and real active mentors, Susan Hammer, Janet Gray Hayes, Blanca Alvarado, Susie Wilson, who really took an active interest in nurturing the women who were a little bit younger, the women in the neighborhoods. And so, you know, once we got on council, there was just tremendous support for one another and for doing a good job.
And what do you think were your greatest accomplishments during that time? What are you most proud of?
Well, I'm proud to be part of Susan Hammer's consensus group that rebuilt the downtown and drew a green line and opened up all the boards and commissions to diversity. But on a personal level, I think the biggest victory was also the biggest challenge, and that was stopping development on the Berryessa hillsides. When I got into office, there was tremendous pressure to build a lot of houses up there in the East Foothills, and I just couldn't have it. We were in the middle of an environmental movement that was trying to create a green line. There was a committee for green foothills. Those hills had had a horrible landslide in the 80s where houses broke in half and fell down the hill. The Oakland fires had happened. So I really put everything I had into fighting that, and it was very tough. There were not only big developers, but a lot of individual landowners up there who were going to build their dream houses. But working with the planning department and good support from the community, we managed to put an ordinance in place that required a geological study before any building would be done, because the whole hills were moving.
Yeah.
So it was a tough fight. It was 6-5.
Really?
And we won, and it was great.
6-5.
6-5.
With the mayor on your side, of course.
With the mayor and the women on our side.
There was all six votes for it were women, you remember?
I can't
Maybe
remember
not.
how the votes came down.
Yeah, but close.
Yeah. And then another one was gun control. Believe it or not, it was a big issue back then. People were buying cheap handguns called Saturday Night Specials, and I sort of led the charge to stop that.
Yeah, you could buy guns 6 blocks from where I live in Nagley Park then.
Yeah. Another very contentious hearing. The chambers were full. We had police escorts follow us home after the hearing. Another 6-5 vote, but we did ban the sale of cheap handguns for that year.
And during that time, did you experience a major disappointment, something you weren't able to accomplish?
It was pretty heady time. It was, you know, it was good times and good consensus. I do remember after Mayor Hammer, we fought for a children's health care initiative, which was unheard of in those times for a city to do. And I felt very strongly about that, had good support. Another big fight, 6-5, but that time we were on the losing end.
Yeah, you lost the first round.
We lost the first round.
But second round, I don't know if you were still
on the council. But I had left the council then. Yeah. Then the county took the lead, I think.
The county took the lead, but then the council and Mayor Gonzalez eventually came along.
Yeah.
But you and your colleagues really put it on the agenda for the city and the county.
Yes, and you know, a lot of it is women being innovative, being family-centered, really coming out of the neighborhoods.
Yeah.
We weren't real estate developers, we weren't attorneys, we weren't, looking for career opportunities. We were just a bunch of women coming out of the neighborhoods. It was a really wonderful time.
And it was the women on the council and the county board that pushed for it successfully.
Yeah.
Ultimately.
I have to mention Alviso because it was a big success, but it continued to disappoint. It was a neglected community.
Yeah.
Garbage dumps, sewer treatment, flooding, toxics, and the first thing I did as a new council member back then was to get the votes for a task force, a master plan task force. Angry community, very difficult. We met once a month. I remember telling my family I'm going out to Alviso for my monthly beating because they were relentless in their anger toward the city. But we did end up with a good master plan to preserve the historic identity there, and a youth center and a library.
Yeah.
So, but again, still disappointing. When I came back 15 years later, they're still angry, still trouble. So I got the votes to do a park master plan, to master plan the whole park area and consolidate all of the facilities. So.
Is that in your first?
That was the second time around.
Second time around. We'll come back to that.
Okay.
Meanwhile, as Susan Hammer's final term was coming to an end, 1998, you thought about running for mayor and ultimately did not run. What?
Yes.
Why not?
That probably was my biggest disappointment in myself.
Yeah.
But it just, I felt an obligation, I think, first of all, to carry on the work of Susan. I had worked for her for 7 years as her council aide, and then, of course, was a close ally on the council. As she was leaving, we were all a little bit worried about what was going to happen to the city, and things seemed right for me to run. I had a good record. I was getting a lot of support all the way around. So it's great. But then it started getting tougher. The pressure started building. I was advised to do things that I wasn't comfortable doing, just in terms of not being a council member first, but being a candidate first. And raising a lot of money. I started being attacked, and I started rethinking everything. And it wasn't so much fun anymore. It was very, very difficult, and I started struggling with the decision. And ultimately, I came to a point just before declaring. I really wasn't a candidate. I just thought, I can't do this. Everything has to be in place. As much as I love the city and thought I could be a good mayor, everything had to be right to make it work. So I thought I better step out now. It was very disappointing for me and my supporters, but that's life. Every life decision, it has the pros and cons, and you don't know what a decision is going to.
But probably the right decision for you at the time.
It was at the time.
Yeah.
I didn't have the fire in the belly, as they say. I lost
essential.
it.
It's essential because it's tough.
It's very tough.
But you did come back to the council.
I did come
in
back.
2015, almost 20 years later, to fill that vacancy for a few months. While the special election was underway. How was it different?
Well, let me say how it was the same first.
Okay.
Same Tuesday morning meetings. Seemingly same issues.
Really?
Same discussions.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, didn't we deal with this then? I thought we fixed this.
Yeah.
So that part was the same. And I got a text from the mayor the very first day or the first week, and he said, so is it really like riding a bike? And I said, yeah, pretty much. It's, I was very comfortable back in that
This is Mayor
same
Liccardo
seat.
this time around.
Mayor Liccardo, yeah. But it was different. Well, first I got to go in the new city hall, a city hall that we had planned and fought for.
And
what a privilege to be able to go back.
That happened in your term on the council.
Yes.
The planning.
There was way much more polarization than I had recalled. Again, Mayor Hammer led by consensus.
Yeah.
And there were two very visible sides in the city now. And I remember thinking, this is sounding like what's happening in D.C. It was just, with the Republicans in D.C. and tactics.
You mean a relatively pro-labor side, relatively pro-business side.
And tactics, that I had not seen when we were there before. And then the other big difference was the Brown Act, which had very restrictive in council members talking to one another, resolving issues behind the scenes and working it out like the women did. This was so controlled that no one could talk to anybody, or more than a couple people. And then, of course, during the meeting, when the discourse is supposed to take place, everyone's on cell phones. It was amazing to me, really. Everyone was fixated on
Council
their phones.
members.
Council members. So no one was listening. Committee meetings, closed session, council meetings, everybody just had their head down. So that was very different.
One thing about the female council in the 90s, the women council members actually did listen and pay attention.
I thought we
to
did.
speakers.
I
Well,
mean,
I was usually in the audience.
Yeah,
so,
that's right.
yeah.
You were there.
Yeah.
So it's quite different, but still a good city, good people. You know I love the city, and it was an honor to really be able to go back to my old city.
You resigned before your second term was up to take an administrative position with the city of LA, pretty high up in Parks and Rec there, and then came back to Santa Clara County, also to a pretty high up administrative position dealing with housing. Did you like being an administrator more than being an elected official? How did it feel different to you?
No.
No.
Being a council member was the best job I've ever had, hands down, no question. It's just a heady experience. I felt empowered. I had good support, and with a great city, so
Yeah.
it was wonderful. Being an administrator was satisfying in its way. I was sort of a policy wonk anyway, so I kind of got into it okay. But Los Angeles had 4.5 million people just in the city. It was 5 times bigger than San Jose.
Yeah.
So it was quite a culture shock, and I knew no one. I remember going to my first reception down there, which was 5 times bigger than any reception I had been here. And I walked from one end of the room to the other. I knew no one.
Yeah,
Not
what a
one person
change.
spoke to me. And it was like, whoa.
Wow.
I remember thinking, this is what it must be like to be in the witness protection program, because I have a whole new identity down here. And Los Angeles I'm glad I had the experience. It just opened my eyes and gave me skills I hadn't had before, but lots of problems down there.
Yeah.
Lots of problems in the parks and everywhere. Just kind of not like San Jose.
So we're almost out of time. Tell us what you've been doing lately.
Well, after I left the council the second time, I kind of have focused on my own house. I'm an avid gardener. I'm out in the garden all the time. Right now, at the moment, weeding is my life.
Yes.
I'm on a couple of nonprofits. I swim 2 or 3 times a week. I have a big family. I have 5 children and 8 grandchildren. And my oldest granddaughter just had a baby, so I'm actually a great grandmother as a few months ago. And I'm a painter.
You're painting?
So I'm an oil painter, yes. So, and actually, the month I stepped out of the mayor's race was the same time I picked up a drawing book and a set of pencils and started drawing.
Yeah.
So I love the art. I paint things that are important to me. I've painted various pictures around Berryessa, my family members, all kinds of things, and it's wonderful.
Good. Well, Margie Matthews, sorry we're out of time. Thank you very much for joining us on Valley Politics
And thank you for
today.
doing this. I enjoyed being here.
Good. For other interviews with the leaders and activists who shaped the history of San Jose and Santa Clara County, find CreaTV on YouTube and scroll down to the Valley Politics History Interviews.